Do you want to find out how well I've done this time on eBay? Then keep watching.
As you're probably aware, January is quite a difficult month generally. I mean, I've never really been one to notice it too much, just by the way my life is, I suppose. I've been in a fortunate position where, I've always been employed. The last 14 years self-employed, and then obviously probably that many years, I suppose, on and off, but more recently since October last year, selling on eBay. So the actual January blues hasn't really ever affected me. I haven't really sort of thought much of it, really. Selling on eBay, it's been, I've actually found it no different. Although I'm quite quiet, but my stats and what I've sold in January alone has amounted to enough to pay my storage charge a month and potentially 2 full days off so far at the time of recording, which is the 21st of January 2026. So I could have had a couple of days off, like my real job, as it were, and my storage charges would have been paid, and I would have still been a little bit in profit. I won't say a lot, but yeah, it's still a bit of an eye opener though when you look at the stats of what I've sold and what I'd earn, and then if I had to be full time, how much different that would be.
So the process of trying to become full-time on eBay, the reality hits is when you start looking at your figures. Now, we'll have a look at my eBay account briefly in a second. So this video isn't going to be that long. I think I've done a lot of work behind the scenes actually, which this is what this update video is mainly about. And what I've actually done is changed a lot of my policies, my postage policies, repictured some of the stock that I've got, so it's a little bit more appealing. But you have to remember what I'm selling, and I'll show you in a second, sort of some of the stuff anyway, but Hot Wheels, which is brand new, and Tamiya radio controlled car hop-ups. Now it's very niche. I don't have an abundance of stock. It's not always about having more stock, although to a certain degree it would help. For example, I watch quite a lot of other YouTubers who sell on eBay. There's about 3 in particular that I religiously watch their videos, and I use it as a little bit of a tool to sort of work out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. For the most part, there is a lot of resellers who sell clothes. Now that isn't me, but it kind of makes sense. There's a lot of profit in clothing if done correctly, and you cover a broad spectrum of customer. Depends on the niche that you're selling in. If you go down the route of car boot type stuff, non-clothes, electricals, anything and everything, you're still covering a wide spectrum of potential buyers, aren't you? So I've come from part of my job roles, if you like. I used to buy and sell second-hand cars from home. That is a little bit like what I'm doing at the moment. Let me explain what I mean.
So when you're selling cars from home, when I was doing that, I'd only have room for perhaps, 2 or 3 cars at tops. For the most part, I might have had 1 or 2 cars. So nothing, I didn't have a whole forecourt. So you got one car out there for sale, and you've got all the people looking for cars, and you've got to find that 1 or 2 people, whatever it is, that need that car you're selling. It worked out pretty well. If I had a forecourt of cars, clearly there's more investment, overheads, etc., etc. You'd have to sell more. I was quite fortunate where I could sell from home, and it done me well for probably, I don't know, 8 years, which I pretty much paid for my racing at the time when I was racing. Just to make your store look bigger, it doesn't really work like that. You've got to have the right type of stock, not the amount. Hence, it's quite niche actually for YouTube and eBay, is the CTR. Now, if you don't know what CTR stands for, it's your click-through rate. It doesn't actually mean, in this case, in eBay, that you're going to be selling, but it's worked out on when your advert is seen and someone clicks on it. So that itself is like YouTube.
You've got to have the right type of stock, not the amount. Hence, it's quite niche actually for YouTube and eBay, is the CTR. Now, if you don't know what CTR stands for, it's your click-through rate. It doesn't actually mean, in this case, in eBay, that you're going to be selling, but it's worked out on when your advert is seen and someone clicks on it. So that itself is like YouTube when someone sees your thumbnail and clicks on it. It doesn't mean, well, in both cases, doesn't mean they're going to watch your video. In eBay, it doesn't mean they're going to buy your product. But we're going to have a look at my stats now, just quickly, and I'll go over a little bit more detail on what I've done to try and make things better. Now I'm going to go up to my computer.
So here we are on my computer. You can see me in the corner. In fact, I'm going to make myself disappear for a minute so you can see the whole screen. There we go, that's better. You ain't got to see me. You can hear me now though. So this is just basically my eBay. You can see here my sales. It's from December. It hasn't been too bad. And if you look at the stats down here at the bottom, haven't sold anything today. Last 7 days, it's a bit low. However, the last 31 days, it's 31% up. And I think it's because during just before Christmas, I was away, so I didn't sell anything. So there's about 2 weeks there where nothing really happened. It's got like the last 90 days. It's still very, very low, as in, if you're trying to make a business out of it, but it's not bad. If you move over to traffic, this is the bit that there's a few good and bads on here, as you can see. So generally speaking, my impressions and my page views is way down. So people that are using eBay are not actually clicking on my store. But I was telling you about the click-through rate. Mine's at the moment 0.7%, so it's up 0.3%. So people that are looking at your adverts are clicking, and the sales conversion's 1.6%. Now, you need that twice that, to be honest, to make more of a difference. And it's current 1.6% and 0.7%. So activity and things are happening. And I've done quite a lot of work behind the scenes. As I said before, I've changed my posting policy. So I've still got quite a number of listings which are free postage. But the Hot Wheels product, where the margins ain't so big, I've started to add postage for the customer. It's only going to be second class tracked, which is about £3.55 for a typical box small parcel, as it were. Because most of the stuff on Hot Wheels is small parcel. There's a couple of large parcel items, and that will go up accordingly on a different postage policy. So I've been working on that. On the Tamiya stuff, on the other hand, the cheaper end of Tamiya, so generally under £12, under £10. I've had to charge postage because the margins weren't there. I was selling them free of charge postage, and generally speaking, it would have been first class. Then I scaled it down to 48-hour tracked, so it's still costing me £3.55. But in some cases, when you take all the fees off, you're just about in breaking even, and in some cases you're under, you're minus. So that had to change. So that's what I've been working on. That was quite long and drawn out, and I haven't finished that yet because some of the adverts are still stating free shipping, although there might not be. So as I've been putting new stock on, I've been making sure that the description's been updated as well. So that's taken quite a lot of admin behind the scenes. Now, you can see I'm still back on this page. I haven't really moved. If I scroll down, there's another sort of interesting fact. My active listings here, which you can see is 307, and it doesn't really change much from that. You'll see here my scheduled listings, 13. Of those 13, some of them are topping up stock, but most of them are new, sort of stock that I have sold. So they've got history, and they're scheduled to go on as and when it arrives. I've got a new delivery due here for Tamiya this coming Friday, which is the 20, was it now, 21, 24 or something? What is it today? 21, 23 or something like that. So I have got some Tamiya stuff coming, and amongst that Tamiya stuff is some new product line which won't be on this part, which is down here. So if you add, 13 and 7, it's 20. So it's 320 active listings potentially by Friday, plus any extras I put on there that are not here. They're new stock. So I'm trying those out to see whether they'll sell. That puts it up to, I don't know what it would be, 325 from memory, I think. It's still nowhere near when you consider product lines that have to sell, or you have a history of selling and you want to double it. To double that to 600, even just doubling it, will take a huge amount of investment. So what I'm hoping to do is get along to some car boot sales in the summer or when they start up, and particular products, i.e., this will be the second-hand bit. So model cars and anything to do with perhaps slot cars, or I mean, it's doubtful you'll find any Tamiya at car boot sales, to be honest, because people know what they're worth. So it's unlikely you'll get that. But that's the plan. So that could change the active listings and get another sort of batch of people checking out my store. Looking down here, I'm just going down a bit further. I've got good feedback, lots of things coming through, being sold, etc., etc. So there's not much else that I'll really go through. I might show you my stock in a minute. I'll just sort of glance over that and so you can see that. But that will just about cover up this side of eBay for the time being. It's a totally different ball game. If you're buying second-hand charity shops, car boots, and selling for a profit, or vintage clothing, or bric and brac, or whatever you want to call it, it's a different beast. When you go into new selling on eBay, I think that's slightly, I won't say too much of a disadvantage, but you do need a lot more investment, which is what I don't have. So it's a much slower burn progress to get up to that. We're never ever going to be able to compete with the likes of, companies that sell online, or companies that have shops, and which do have shops, like the radio controlled companies, toy shops, toy stores, which hold, Hot Wheels and things like that. You'll never compete, like the big brands, Asda, and Smiths, and all that kind of stuff, the toys, ever. So you have to narrow it right down into a niche which you've got a loyal support of customers that buy those products. So before I go, I'll just quickly show you the products that I'm selling the ones that I've got here that are not at my store.
So this is the sort of thing that I've got. You'd have to excuse the handheld, and I forgot my mic on my phone, but we're just going down some of the stock. There's quite a lot there. This whole rack is actually a mixture of Tamiya and some other bits and pieces. We've also got some bits and pieces here. You can see they're sort of labelled up just in cardboard boxes, but at least I know where everything is. As it happens, whilst I was filming this, we sold an item on eBay, which I'm just about to send out, and it came from that box there. Rough Rider, Sand Scorcher and Super Champ, and it was the ball diff, which is obviously in there. I'm just going to finish up wrapping that up now. So there's one thing that went out, and I've got to put the Tamiya stickers onto the back of my packaging. Now moving on to other items that I've got. Down here we've got Hot Wheels, those boxes. There's more Hot Wheels along there, and you can see along there, ranging from monster trucks to the premium Hot Wheels. I'm not talking about just off the cuff standard Hot Wheels. They're just, for me, there's just not enough money in that at all. I just can't make a profit on it. But these are quite slow burn. But more importantly, apart from perhaps some of those there, and maybe that Burigo one there, but a lot of this you can't get in the shops because they won't stock the full range, which is what I go for. Like these ones there, which are sort of the premium team sort of cars, which become like transporters and race cars. And you've got the cars in pairs there. They sort of come as a collector. There's also ones up there behind that tube. More sort of collectible-ish cars, if you like. But yeah, that's pretty much, apart from what I've got down the store, that's pretty much my stock completely. I'm also dabbling with the slot car thing. Some of those are mine to keep. Some are collecting to possibly sell, but you know, we'll see. So that's pretty much it. That covers this week's or this month's eBay update. Probably do it, I said, about every 2 weeks or 3. It's probably beneficial for me to perhaps do it every month, because not much changes on a week-to-week basis unless it explodes, and then I'll come up with a plan to do another video. But yeah, we're working on it slowly, slow burn. Fortunately, I do have a full-time job. Going full-time on eBay is the plan. That's the goal. The YouTube videos are just to document what I'm doing, and anybody else that wants to do it can have a look and either do something different if they want it to work, or at least they know what perhaps not to do, or I can give them some advice on what you can do. But I appreciate anyone that watches, and I will see you in the next update, which will probably be sometime now in February. So take care, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.